Your assistance has been requested.
Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the Tiger 1, the Tier 7 German heavy tank. It's located on the south spawn of Pilsen, and this one is under the command of JuniorBritner13. And he's got 3 marks of excellence on his barrel, so he's obviously played this tank a lot. Game started. Well, doesn't get off to a good start, does it? Not when you've got your teammates getting in your way. But he's got his gun up and he's happy. And he likes this tank a lot. It's his favourite tank. And there's a fair bit I can tell you about the Tiger as well that you might find interesting. You know, that gun was so accurate that when the British finally got one of these tanks and tried it out and tested it, at 1100 yards, or I think it was 1100 metres, they got 5 consecutive shots on a target that was only half a metre by half a metre. That's right, they actually managed to get 5 out of 5 on a target that was no bigger than half a metre in size. Incredibly accurate gun. But something that's surprising you will not know, because you probably don't know, is that the Panther gun had better penetration than the Tiger's 88 at short range. At long range, the Tiger was supreme, but at short range, the Panther was better with its 7.5 centimeter gun. Yep, that is true. That is a fact that not a lot of people realise. So he's got a good penetration on the VK3601H. He got 1 round into the Tiger 131. And you may know Tiger 131 is one of the few Tigers, in fact, that's still intact, but it's the only one that's actually working. All the others are non-working versions of the Tiger. In fact, of the Tigers actually in existence, only 2 are basically complete, but only one of them is actually working. The Americans got one as well. They captured it, but it's not in working condition. And they actually did cut holes in the turret to basically show the armour thickness. So it's actually on display, but they've put covers over the bits of the hull where they cut into it. Nice shot. The best thing about the Tiger is that it really had a great effect during the war. Killed 10,300 enemy tanks and 11,380 anti-tank guns. It was that good. It didn't have that fearsome reputation for nothing. It really was a lethal tank. And you can see here that Junior Britner's doing incredibly well. If his teammates won't get in the way, that KB3 is cramping his style. It's a stock KB3 as well. He's already managed to rack up 1.4k of damage. Now, the alpha damage of the gun, which is the KWK36L56, that means it's 56 calibers long in the barrel, is capable of 280 alpha, and it'll penetrate with standard ammo 203mm of penetration. And with the premium APCR, it'll go through 237. Here's another fact you probably don't know. The actual Tiger not only carried standard AP, ballistic cap version, it also carried APCR, that's composite rigid, and it carried heat rounds as well. And they also carried another round, which was called incendiary fraggable, I think it was, not fraggable. It was an incendiary round that would actually cause shrapnel at the other end. I've forgotten, is it fraggable? I think it's fraggable. But anyway, so they had 4 different types of ammunition they could carry, but not all of the Tiger tanks carried this ammunition because some of the ammunition was actually fairly scarce. But there again, this gun just had so much penetration that really all they needed was the AP. I think the fraggable incendiary was really for use against troops or setting fire to things. Lovely shot there into the T-3485. A low roll though, 278 was the damage. The best way to get the the best out of the armour on the Tiger is actually to angle 30 to 45 degrees to form a diamond shape. Oh, beautiful kill shot there. Lined it up, waited for the guy to go past, put the round into him. Yes, the diamond shape is actually the best way to get the most out of it. Now you find an APCR round into that GW Panther, he doesn't really need to. A standard AP or AG would do the job. But he's got the guy out the game, and now he's got 20% of the enemy hit pool, which means a potential high caliber is on the cards. Now the only comparable tanks that the Allies had during the war to the Tiger, not tanks that could actually take it out, but tanks that were comparable to it in weight and capability, were the Pershing, the M26, and also the IS-2. But there were so few of those actually built by the end of the war. Oh, just took a round in the rear from a Scorpion over there. One shot takes him out, but he did take some damage. 2 penetrating rounds from the 90mm gun. In fact, the Allies had to start thinking of other ways to get rid of Tigers, and one of the things they found is the 17-pounder anti-tank gun did actually have decent penetration on a Tiger tank. It managed to get through the armour, which is 100mm thick in some places, especially on the turret, where on the gun mantlet it's 120mm thick. But they managed to get good penetration with the 17-pounder, which is 76.2mm in caliber, but it's a very high velocity gun. And in fact, that's the same is true for the Tiger's gun. It's also a high velocity gun. That's how it manages to get the penetration. Now the Germans actually came up with a design for a heavy tank back in 1938, but they didn't go ahead and build it. They did try out some prototypes, and they came up with the VK30-01H and also the VK3601H from Henschel. But they never put them into production. But it was the first encounters with the KV-1 and the T-34 that convinced the Germans they definitely had to go ahead and build a heavy tank, and that's how the Tiger came about. 2 companies were in competition to get the contract. As you know, one of them was Porsche, the other was Henschel. And Henschel got the design only on the basis that the Porsche design required a lot of copper, and Germany didn't have that much in the way of copper, so that's why his design was rejected. Now he's hunting down the last enemy, which is the Comet, which is a British tank that was designed really in a sense to actually take on the Tiger. It's a medium tank with a 17-pounder. And the Comet also has the Meteor engine, which is a D-rated or non-supercharged, he's down here somewhere, it's a non-supercharged Merlin engine from the Spitfires. And funnily enough, there's something you may not know about the Tiger again, is that the Meteor engine is actually 4 litres bigger in capacity than the Tiger's engine, and yet it has about the same power. So the Tiger's engine was much more compact, much more powerful per weight. But that's for another occasion. This battle is over and it's a victory, and we'll see the end of battle results after we've seen the second battle with JuniorBritner. The second battle for JuniorBritner is on the North Spawn of Westfield. Game on. Well, something else maybe you don't know about the Tiger is that apparently when the Americans actually looked into it, and of course the British for that matter, they found that the Tiger was very Spartan on the inside but very uncomfortable to operate. But surprisingly, the German crews actually found it quite spacious and comfortable. I think that's a different approach because the Tiger was a step up from the Panzer Mark IV and of course the Panzer Mark III, and so they felt they had more space inside this vehicle than those tanks. Whereas the Americans, well, they liked a lot of room in their tanks, and that's why you'll find that the The Sherman has a fair amount of space inside it, and so does the Pershing and other tanks they've got. High roll on the Jagdpanther. He's using standard AP on these guys. Oh, T-29. Now that's the tank that was actually devised to take out the Tiger. I was mentioning about the engine as well, funnily enough, in the previous previous replay. The engine was originally a Maybach one, petrol engine, because they couldn't make a diesel engine that was powerful enough to power this thing. And, well, the Germans would actually call it benzene, not petrol. But it actually is originally was a 21 litre engine, but in a V12 configuration. And oh, Tiger P, that's the prototype of the Henschel, the Porsche design. Yes, it was a V12 petrol engine, but after 250 Tigers have been built, they actually switched to a new engine, also by Maybach, which was made of cast iron instead of aluminium, and that allowed them to bump up the capacity to 23 litres. And that 23 litres was producing 700 horsepower. Now, that was still underpowered for the weight of this tank, which is 60 tons. But it was still a very good engine, as I said, compared to the Meteor's engine, which is actually 4 litres higher. And yet it was producing about the same horsepower. So the Germans had actually devised a very complex engine, very powerful engine, but it was just probably too heavily engineered. And one of the problems they did have with the engine was it would overheat, and they found that Tigers had problems in that they were less reliable if the driver was not a good driver. So they actually needed well-trained drivers to ensure that the vehicle was safe and reliable. And the Germans actually used training vehicles without turrets. They were identical to Tigers, but they just had no turrets, and they were powered by natural gas, and they used to train the crews on that vehicle. And in fact, actually, some of the German tank commanders actually said that a lot of their Tigers, if they had a really good driver, would last for nearly 3,000 miles of travelling, just so long as they got regular maintenance. So they were reliable if you had a good driver. If you had a bad driver, they were very unreliable and they'd suffer a lot. Enemy Arty's worked out where he is. And oh, that's the Tiger 2. Now that's the next development up. Now, something else you may notice about the Tiger is what's on those tracks. Yes, that is Shadowplay, the interleavened road wheels using torsion bar suspension, and that was a design that was thought up for the Tiger, originally for the VKs, but then it became in use on the Tigers, and it was a way of actually distributing the weight of the vehicle over a much wider area. And it made the suspension much more reliable, but it also had another effect. If an enemy fired a shell into those interleaven wheels, it would get eaten by the wheels, and it's less likely to penetrate into the hull of the vehicle. Of course, it required a lot more work, and in fact, it did make this tank a lot less reliable in cold weather, because the mud and the would turn into ice inside inside and in between the interleaven wheels, and they would jam the wheels up, which meant that it was very difficult to move the Tiger about. But they found that if they actually turned their engines over on a regular basis and then moved the wheels, then they could stop the ice from forming. Junior Britain's having fantastic shots on the enemy. Already up to 2 kills, and T-29, yes, gets his arse penned. He's completed whatever mission he was after. It's a heavy tank number 12. Had to get a certain amount of damage. He's done that so far, but he's also got to do other missions. Took him around through the gun there. Now, another thing you may not know is who actually called the Tiger the Tiger. And there goes the T-29. The person who actually named the tank the Tiger was Ferdinand Porsche. He was the one who originally came up with the name, and well, Henschel just went with it. And Hitler himself actually changed the designation of the vehicle. Originally it was known as the Panzerkampfwagen 6 Ausführung E, but he actually changed that so it became known as the Tiger. Changed the name designation. Everyone knew it as a Tiger anyway, but it deserved its fearsome reputation. This vehicle really was responsible for the death of so many Allied servicemen because it was just so powerful. And Junior Britner's got his gun up because, oh, I spoke too soon there, because that was the enemy Arty saying hello. Yeah, he's got his gun up because he's destroyed all the enemy tanks around him, and it's now down to his teammates to deal with the ones on the periphery. You can understand why he's got those 3 marks on the barrel when you see a game like this. He really devastated everybody around him, and he's still got half his hit points. All the enemy tanks are dead, and most of them are dead because of him. He did the damage, 2.7k of damage so far, and he's looking for some more. Now, as I might have mentioned as well, in the game you actually only get 72 rounds of ammunition. In reality, the Tiger carried 92 rounds of ammunition, a lot more. I suppose they had to handicap the Tiger somewhere. If they gave it 92 rounds of ammunition, it would just wander around the battlefield, destroying everything it came across. Now, they built 1,347 Tiger 1s and 492 Tiger 2s during the war, but very few actually survived. $1,725 were lost, and there are still bits of Tigers being turned into Tigers at this moment. In Australia, at the Cairns Museum, they are trying to rebuild a Tiger tank from all the parts they've managed to accumulate. This tank is just so phenomenal, the reputation it's got. A lot of people get into World of Tanks and want to get themselves a Tiger tank to try it out for themselves. See, does it deserve that reputation? Well, we are now capping the AMX M449 Liberté is next to the house. And, oh, enemy Arty. Dead enemy Arty. Unfortunately, he managed to get a shot in, but he didn't get the kill. 254 hit points. But I suppose that's compensation for the shots that... Well, actually, he didn't get any hit points. Sorry, that was the GW's last shot on him. So he didn't get anything at all there. He was actually just too late to get the shot on target, but he has been spotted. So there is an enemy tank over on the south side, and according to the list, it's probably their AMX M449. Now, the M449 is the French tank that was designed after the war in 1949. And, well, it was designed based on ideas that came from watching what the Tigers could do. The French were very impressed with what the Tiger did during the war, and therefore they were actually designing their tanks based on what the Tiger did, as well as what the Soviet tanks did as well. In fact, a lot of nations made their signed decisions based on knowledge of what the Tiger did during the war. It was such an effect upon everyone. Oh, somebody knocked a tree over. So there is somebody in those bushes over there. And you notice how Junior Britner's been mostly using standard AP throughout this game as well. So he's going to end up with a nice hefty amount of profit from this game. LTB moving rather rapidly, but not too rapidly to get a shot. Gets a high roll. There's the AMX M449. See if he can pen this guy. Hits him in the... Well, in fact, actually, he went through the drive wheel, but he got it into the vehicle. That one hit the ground. Now, they're only one tank up on the enemy at the moment. Strategically, the enemy has got the outer southeast corner, rather, I should say, of the map. And this LTTB is probing to find out where our guys are and allow his teammates to shoot. All we've got to stop the enemy from taking our cap is an S51 and a T54 first prototype. He's moving up because of these bushes and trees. I like using this position if I'm in the tank destroyer. M449. Going for the cupola. Oh! And the kill shot went to somebody else, but there's the SU-101. He gets him with a single shot. So he's now at 4 kills. Oh, but he took a round from an Indian Panzer. Is that an Indian Panzer? Yes. 90mm gun. Just going to wait here for a second so he goes unsighted. He's potentially got the high caliber in this game already. 20% of the enemy hit pool. Okay, there's the Indian Panzer right up against the edge. Nice one into the engine bay, and he dies immediately. And that is the end of the game. They've got the rest, so it's a victory. Let's have a look at the end of battle stats for both games. In the first battle, JuniorBritner13 managed to get an ace tanker in the Tiger 1. He also managed to get a spotter badge for spotting at least 1,000 hit points of damage, a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points to his own vehicle, a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits in that game. He managed to get 6, and he got the high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game. His win rate from the battle was 9,789. If we look at team score, we can see he was top of the table with 3,739 hit points. The next high scorer being the Scorpion, who managed to hit him with 1,822 hit points, but he got taken out very, very quickly with a snapshot. And after that, it was the M44 Junior Britner's team with the Confederate, managed to get 1,567 hit points of damage. When it came to kills, it was the IS. He managed to get 5 kills in that game, just one short of the Top Gun. 3 kills went to Junior Britner and also to the SU-152 on his team. Nobody on the enemy team managed to get more than 2 kills. In fact, the Scorpion was the best they had on their team, and he only got 2. And when it came to base XP, it's Junior Britner with 1,522 base experience points, the only player over 1,000. 971 went to the IS, 810 went to the M44. He fired 26 rounds in that game, 21 direct hits, 15 penetrations, damage of 3,739 hit points, of which 1,297 were up more than 300 meters. He received 8 hits from the enemy, only 5 of which actually penetrated, and 2 of those came from that Scorpion who shot him in the rear. 3 non-penetrations as well, and he blocked damage of 1,000 hit points in total. He spotted 5 enemy vehicles, damaged 8 of the enemy, killed 3, and did 1,008 hit points of spotting assist. On a free-to-play account, he earned 46,969 credits, and after repair and ammunition resupply, and yes, he did use some APCR in this game, in fact, fair amount of APCR, and he actually made a loss of 3,403 credits. If he'd had a premium account, he would have made a profit on this one, no problem. 1,522 base XP, 10,067 for completing a mission, took away 11,589 experience points altogether. He says, second ace in a row, Tiger 1 my favourite tank. Well, he obviously shows that he likes it by the way he actually plays it. Now, let's have a look and see how he did on the second game. Well, that was actually, I think, the first game in the sequence, yes. He actually played the game on Westfield first, but I put them the other way round. It was my mistake. In the first game, he managed to get, second game, he managed to get an ace tanker as well. He also got a fighter badge in this one for getting at least 4 kills. He got 4. He got a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points to his own vehicle, and a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. He managed to get 8. He also managed to get a Confederate medal in this one for hitting more of the enemy than anyone else on his team. These 6 tanks subsequently taken out by other teammates, and he certainly spread the rounds around. He was certainly responsible for doing a huge amount of damage to the enemy heavies and then allowing some of his teammates to get the kills on them. His win rate in this one was 11,057, much higher than the previous one. If we look at the team score, we can see that he did get the second highest damage in this one. Unfortunately, the LC-790 on the enemy team, during that brief period where they were looking at each other across the valley, he managed to get a high caliber and 3,782 hit points, and you can see Junior Britner was close with 3,714, which just goes to show, once you've got 20% of the enemy hit pool, you need to keep the damage going, because if you don't, somebody else might steal it away from you. And that ELC-790 certainly did that in this case. The next highest damage was the Tiger 2 on the enemy team. He got 3,404 hit points of damage, but yes, he ended his game after Junior Britner took him out. When it came to kills, we can see that it was Junior Britner who managed to get 4 kills in this game, high scorer. The next high scorers were the UDES, the T-54 first prototype, who also got a steel wall, the S-51, the ELC-790, the T-29 and the Jagdpanther. They all managed to get 2 kills apiece. And when it came to base XP, yes, he's got the top in that one, 1,555. The only player over 1,000. The next one being the S-51 with 979, and the T-54 first prototype managed 871, closely followed by the UDES with 862. Junior Britner fired 21 rounds in this game, got 16 direct hits and 15 penetrations, damage of 3,714 hit points, of which 876 were at more than 300 meters, so the majority of his damage was done at close range, mostly to those enemy heavies, and he was really laying into them. 7 hits received, 2 penetrations, 3 non-penetrations, and 2 hits by way of splash damage. Yes, the enemy Arty had him twice, actually. Got him with 2 very nice shots, but it was really the enemy heavies that he was actually engaging in a big way, and he certainly dealt a lot of damage to them. 1,030 hit points of damage blocked by armor, 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 11 enemy vehicles were damaged and 4 were killed, and 1,197 hit points of spotting assist. Again, I think spotting assist or damage assist, probably the latter. 45,341 credits on a standard account, the free play account, 40,000 for completing a mission, 85,341 credits altogether, and after repair and ammunition resupply, and this time round he fired mostly standard ammo as you saw, and this time round he made a big profit, 68,784 credits as I mentioned during the battle. 1,555 base XP, times 2 for the first victory, 9,022 for completing a mission, took away 12,132 experience points altogether. He says it's my favourite tank. Yes, we can see that. That's why you've got 3 marks on it. You obviously know how to handle this tank exceptionally well. And it's a very interesting tank as well, because not a lot of people play it very well. The Tiger 1 did have a fearsome reputation during the war, but in the game it's kind of lost that fearsome reputation because most people who play it don't play it well. They allow their tanks to get taken out very easily. JuniorBritner13 doesn't do that. He actually fights his tank exceptionally well, uses the armor, angles it correctly, uses that big 8.8 centimeter KWK 36 gun to good effect, and gets fantastic penetration on the enemy. It is a monster if it's used in the right hands, and Junior Britner 13 has definitely got the right hands for the Tiger 1. And if anyone's actually wants to get their Tiger and learn how to play it, I think they could do no better than to actually take a heed from how Junior Britner played his and do the same, because that's the only way really to get a really good effect out of this tank. It can be a monster if you play it right, and Junior Britner plays it right, definitely. So I hope you enjoyed both those replays. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.